All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a biological mystery that literally millions of people experience without even knowing it. Think about it for a second. Millions of people have hiked, hunted, camped, and worked deep inside wolf country without a single incident. And, well, this isn't because wolves are gentle creatures and they certainly haven't signed some kind of peace treaty with humanity. So today we're going to look at the fascinating, cold, and calculated reasons why one of nature's absolute best apex predators almost always decides to just turn around and walk away from us. A wild wolf can hear you before you know it is there. Take a moment to let that chilling reality sink in. You have very likely been smelled, watched, and completely evaluated by a wild predator in the woods, only for it to silently walk away. It catches your scent moving through the trees, it knows your exact direction, and its entire understanding of the encounter begins minutes before you even realize you aren't alone. And then, the wolf just leaves. To our human nervous system, that just feels completely wrong, right? So why don't they attack? When you consider the fact that we humans are unarmed and, let's be honest, physically unremarkable compared to their usual prey, the central question of this explainer becomes glaringly obvious. A gray wolf is plenty large enough to injure a person, fast enough to catch one, and comes equipped with teeth literally designed to hold onto struggling massive animals. So why, when they have absolutely every physical advantage over us, do they usually choose distance? Section 1. The Unseen Encounter. Let's start by just looking at the pure physical mismatch between us and the animals they normally hunt. It brilliantly illustrates our core paradox. A lone human is incredibly vulnerable to a wolf. I mean, wolves cooperate to take down deer, elk, moose, and even bison. Standing next to a bison, an unarmed person looks, well, structurally unfinished. We don't have horns. Our skin is super thin. Our natural bite is really only useful for, making dentists expensive. Physically, we just aren't impressive by large mammal standards. So what actually saves us? Section 2. The Predator's Calculus. To really understand why we survive despite our physical weakness, we have to completely reframe how wolves view the world. They aren't mindless, unstoppable killers. Actually, scratch that. They are more like biological accountants. The crucial point here is that wolves in places like Yellowstone actually test far more elk than they successfully kill. They're constantly running down this mental checklist: prey defenses, the geometry of the pack's attack, the energy cost of pursuit, and the risk of injury from kicks and strikes. They will abandon hunts if the animal is too strong. They're basically searching for the animal whose defenses are already failing, because a kicking moose or a healthy adult elk is incredibly dangerous to them. Predators do not receive medical leave. This quote is a game changer because it explains everything about their mindset. One broken jaw from a kicking elk or one damaged leg can cost a wolf every single future hunt. It can literally leave them unable to feed. And that means they are constantly, obsessively calculating risk versus reward. Their success doesn't just depend on what they can kill. It depends on what they can kill without paying too high a physical price for it. Now, think about how we look from their perspective. To a wolf, a human doesn't look like an easy meal at all. We look bizarre and highly risky. We stand upright, which makes us unfamiliar and strange. We make really irregular, direct movements that are tough for them to evaluate. Plus, we often travel with dogs, tools, and fire, meaning a huge potential for retaliation. Fundamentally, a moose has never fired a warning shot or come back the next morning with tracking equipment, right? For centuries, humans have historically been lethal to them. So surviving wolves have developed this deep inherited tendency toward extreme caution whenever we're around. Section 3. When the barrier breaks. Now, any explanation claiming wild wolves absolutely never attack people is comforting for sure, but it's completely false. We need to look at what happens when that biological caution actually fails. This timeline maps out the escalation of a really serious wildlife management problem. Day 1 starts with distant observation. By week 2, you see shrinking distance. That's ordinary habituation, like a wolf getting used to a distant road or campsite. But by month 1, the dynamics shifts. If humans feed wolves or leave garbage out, human sense stops predicting danger and starts predicting calories. This is food conditioning. And by month 3, that leads to dangerous fearlessness. Feeding a wolf is a long-distance decision about who may be bitten later. If you take away just one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this: feeding a wild animal is not an act of kindness. Advanced habituation removes their evolutionary barrier of caution. By the time a food-conditioned wolf becomes unusually fearless and bites someone, that attack is rarely the very first warning. No, it's usually the tragic final event in a long sequence of behaviors that people simply sat back and watched develop over time. Section 4. The rabies factor. Beyond food conditioning, there is another, far more violent barrier breaker we have to talk about. When we review the 75 verified global attacks between 2002 and 2020, the pattern becomes crystal clear. Out of those 75, 44 were rabid wolves. Rabies accounts for the vast majority of verified attacks. It destroys a wolf's nervous system and normal wariness, causing abnormal aggression, disorientation, and a complete loss of fear. Historically, one single infected animal could move through several settlements, biting multiple people and livestock in one horrifying episode. And for the 15 purely predatory cases in that data, reviews consistently show that children are especially represented. This forces a pretty uncomfortable distinction. A wolf doesn't necessarily have a mental category called child, but they absolutely perceive body size, isolation, and opportunity. A small, isolated person moving erratically away from adults dramatically reduces the uncertainties and risks that a wolf normally fears when sizing up an adult human. This is exactly why adults should immediately gather children close during any unusual wolf encounter. Section 5. Wolves versus dogs. We project so much of our own love for dogs onto wolves, but a wolf pack is absolutely not just a bunch of wild huskies roaming the forest. Look at the stark contrast here. To us, a dog is family, a working assistant, or just an enthusiastic roommate. But to a wild wolf, your dog is a strange canid entering its territory. It is a competitor and a threat. Your neighbor's husky looking offended in the snow does not mean you understand wild pack ecology. Wolves will attack and kill dogs, which can then pull humans into highly aroused, defensive conflicts that never even began as human predation. This is precisely why leash rules in wolf country are absolutely critical for your safety. Section 6. Surviving the wild. So, what do you actually do if the wolf in the trees steps out onto the trail right in front of you? If a wolf refuses to leave, official wildlife guidance relies directly on the biological calculus we've been talking about all along. Stand upright and make yourself large. Speak or shout firmly. Keep your dogs controlled and your children close. And whatever you do, back away slowly. Do not run. Running triggers a chase instinct. These steps work perfectly with a wolf's normal calculation by proving you are aware, large, difficult to take down, and not providing food. You are maximizing the cost of their approach. Fear is not a spreadsheet. Despite everything we've learned today, humans carry a deep psychological bias that makes wolf danger feel much larger than its actual probability. We don't panic about vehicle crashes or domestic dog bites in the same way, mostly because ordinary dangers wear boring clothes. But a wolf attack? That is vivid. It involves darkness, teeth, and ancient stories. The unfamiliar predator occupies more of our imagination simply because our fear is not a spreadsheet. Will you remember that the wolf leaves not because you are stronger, but because you are too risky? The correct response to wolves is neither fairy tale panic nor social media overconfidence. They are powerful wild animals, but they are incredibly careful accountants. Their caution is a product of history, leaving us with a profound biological respect. So, the next time you hear a twig snap in the deep woods, ask yourself, is the animal in the trees leaving because you're stronger, or simply because humans are too risky? And really, what else might we be misunderstanding about the ancient predators we share this world with?